Okay. Let me
Ilias! Oh
let me go pin this message. So,
my gosh, wow, yeah, look at that. You do have a wow.
mm-hmm.
Ah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening into the audio right now, and it sounds
Okay. Looks like we are live. All right. Welcome everyone to the sixth and long anticipated episode of Sonic Lore with Radar. And we are going to be discussing about the lore of the different organizations and civilizations in the Sonic franchise. And of course, I'm joined by Radar.
hello everybody. I'm glad to be back once again with Leah here.
Mhm. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about any of the organizations and civilizations in the Sonic franchise, you're more than welcome to put your questions in the live stream chat, and Radar here will try his best to answer your questions about the.
Letting letting everyone know that um, a lot of questions can be about any groups and civilizations that exist, not only from the games, but also from the comics and anything that is also featured in Sonic Channel media, of course. Uh, love the lovely people over at Sega of Japan are doing a lot of cool stuff lately. Um, and I can definitely say words to express how much I can't wait to talk about this sort of thing, because what I think is something that is not often talked about as much are really just the characters that help with the world building and such. So they're brought up in topic, but they're never brought up specifically by each individual and such. I don't see a lot of people talking a lot about um, the many soldiers of the Black Arms, or the many groups that inhabit Sonic's world, either in a city or a town or something else, or um, that is just because of little information we have of them, but it's still nice to talk about them and acknowledge that they exist. It's not always just about Sonic and friends, it's always about everything in between and everything um heck, not even just on Earth. All of the species in around in space, the wisps and stuff. Um and especially when it comes even alien civilizations as well, like the ancients and the Babylonians. Um, there's a lot to talk about, and I sure hope that a lot of you have some things to ask in regards about them. Just in case there's some things you don't know, some things you haven't quite figured out yet, or eh, one or the other. You never know.
Mhm. All right, so I'll start with I'm very curious. Have they gone into depth about the Zeddy? I'm very curious because I know in the games they don't really delve into their lore that much, especially in Lost World. Do they talk about them in like maybe in IDW a bit, or I'm very curious about that.
The Zeddy, yes. Uh, s- uh, so, sure, a lot of you already know about the Zeddy, mainly the more infamous ones that consist of the Deadly Six, which is um they are an interesting species just because from all we've seen in IDW and of course the games, mainly Lost World, it does seem to be just those six in particular. We don't know of any others aside from like, oh, they kind of mentioned their parents or something like that or whatever, passing by in like extra dialogue. Um, but it's quite interesting because with the Lost Hex, it's not just the Zeti that live there; it's also the animals that live there, the giant inhabitants, like the Yetis and the cactus balls, the sandworms. You know, you got the little sheeps there that live there. The crocodile, the giant crocodiles. It's like it's very diverse, and considering that Lost Hex is still like hidden amongst the clouds, like no one else, like as far as I am aware, no one but Sonic, Tails, and Eggman know where it is. Like it's just that I mean, it's called the Lost Hex for a reason. Yeah, Lost Hex's inhabitants are uh they are diverse and it's certainly interesting. But no, nothing in passing when it comes to the Zeti themselves. However, I do know something. I do know something in particular that I have heard every like once in a while. Ian Flynn, who works with Sonic Team at the moment. I'm sure everyone knows who Ian Flynn is by now. And if you don't know, why are you living under a rock? um, no, being for real, Ian Flynn. He was head writer for Archie Sonic like way back during the 160 issues, and then he was writing for Archie all the way up until its cancellation. And now he has worked on IEW and he wrote Sonic Frontiers as well. And he's also currently working on Shadow Generations. Just for a recap for some people, Ian Flynn has mentioned on his podcast, like in passing, that from like it was either from something that Sega mentioned or is from like some notes that he got in regards to some of his projects. But and take this with a grain of salt, viewers. Um, it's possible that the Deadly Six are not the only Zeti that are on Lost Hex. We just haven't seen them yet. From what Ian has heard from Sega, it sounds like it's not just Zavok, Zalmon, Zaz, Xena, Zor, and Master Zik. It's not just them. We just haven't seen the others yet.
Mm.
And I know that Ian has talked a lot about wanting to expand more of Lost Hex and its lore, a lot about like what the Zeti is exactly. Like just basically like what their world building is. You know, a lot of the different like, you know, floating um planetoids and locations in Sonic's world, they have their own specific world building. You know, Angel Island has everything built up from the Knuckles clan. Uh Little Planet has a lot of that was built up in Sonic CD with the time travel mechanics. Um, and with Lost Hex, we don't really know much. Like, we really don't really know as much compared to, like, we don't know why the Lost Hex is even there in the first place. It probably doesn't need an explanation, but, like, you never know what people will ask in regards to Sonic's world. Um, like, for like as far as most fans know, the only Zeti that are known are the Deadly Six. That's all we know. And I'm sure like Sega wouldn't want to like explore that yet unless it's like in a future game. But as far as we know, as far as I know, we really don't know like if there are others or not. But that's all I can really say on the matter. That's as far as it goes.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. Oh, looks like I see a question in the chat by it looks like this is Drowsiest. Looks like it says Solon Urchin 976. I do have a question. Aside from kicking Eggy's buttocks, what does the restoration actually do? I'm mostly asking because I forgot. That's
Hi,
okay.
Sullen. Sullen's a friend of mine. So I'm glad that we can actually, I'm glad that we just, I'm glad we can start heading on over into that specific area. Um, just because it really is true what people say. Sonic fans have terrible media literacy sometimes. Not all fans, just it's very clear that some stories just don't people don't pick them up as fast as others, um, which I guess I can understand. But so the restoration, lots of people have heard it. I'm sure, like it was mentioned in Tales Tube, and people are like, well, what the heck? What's that all about? The Restoration is a group that comes from the IDW Sonic comics, and it is the successor to the Resistance from Sonic Forces. So obviously after Sonic Forces, Knuckles was considering to already disband the Resistance, but Silver had already made it clear that there was still a lot to do and that the world needed to be rebuilt after Eggman's defeat. And that's exactly what happened. So a month after the events of Forces, the Resistance was going around helping others, repairing a lot of the areas affected from the Eggman Empire's takeover. And it wouldn't be up until Sonic and Friends comes to the conclusion that, as most IDW fans know, Eggman goes missing and he suffers through an amnesia phase where he is now known as Mr. Tinker in a remote village. And the one who's controlling the Badnik armies at the moment is Neo Metal Sonic, who was upgraded during the events of Forces and was meant to be the final weapon in Eggman's takeover against the Resistance, but he was completed too late. So here we have Neo Metal Sonic, who has just taken over Angel Island in order to accelerate his plans in finding Eggman again so he can turn over the leadership to Eggman. That is what, in case people aren't aware, that is what Neo Metal was doing, was that he was making sure that Eggman's reign stayed intact as Eggman. And the only one who can actually properly lead the Eggman Empire is Eggman. So Neo Metal Sonic was out finding his creator. I know that sounds a bit off to you Sonic Heroes fans. It's because Metal Sonic's rebelliousness was stripped from his coding before Eggman upgraded him to Neo. But as we all know, Sonic and his friends are never like they always get down to the punch, and quite literally, as Neo Metal Sonic was taken down and Angel Island was saved. And it was in that moment of like that little bit of momentary peace where Eggman was now a kind mechanic, Metal Sonic was defeated, the Badniks had no leader, Angel Island is saved. There was no need for the Resistance, so Knuckles disbanded it on a whim. But there were still a lot of people that needed to be helped after that 99% world takeover. And so it was then up to Amy's decision as coordinator of the Resistance to now try and do something with that. Yes, Knuckles did disband it, but Amy wasn't going to let that stand. So it was up. So she was now in charge on her own volition, and she had turned the Resistance into the Restoration. And the Restoration is helping people all around the Earth to again, like I said, what the Resistance was doing during the first stories of IDW, which was helping people repair their homes after the takeover. And it's not. I'm gonna preface this. I think that's the word. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this right now. No, for the last time I want to say it, the Restoration is not a military. Not anymore. The Resistance was, because their whole thing was going after Eggman. But now that the world didn't need to see, as much Badnik attacks with Eggman and Metal Sonic out of commission as they thought, the Resistance could now just focus on humanitarian aid and rebuilding efforts. That is what the Restoration is mainly about. They are just trying to help people. They're not going after Eggman. They're not going after his bases. They are not trying to stop any badnik attacks. They just want to help the people heal. They want to help the Earth heal. And that is like it's seen in little bits and pieces of IDW later on after the metal virus pandemic, but yeah, a lot of it can be seen in the form of, again, um, rebuilding efforts. There are staffed restoration volunteers who are part of a security corps in which if any threat comes to any of the restorations aided, like if rewind that. As soon as I start getting like into what they are at the moment, I have to like, ooh, I need to stop myself a little bit and like, ooh, rewind that and then start over again. If a threat comes to a town that's been aided by the restoration, the security corps will stop them. Um, Humanitarian aid. After the metal virus pandemic, a lot of people were displaced when they were zombots. So a lot of the restoration's time is also spent searching for missing people. And it's still a current problem today, as evident in the Endless Summer comic, which Jewel had commented about the missing people's reports. So it has certainly been a while, and there are still people missing after that. You'll also see a bunch of like other efforts in the form of like restoring nature to how it once was. If you remember in Sonic Forces, the Eggman Empire deforested Green Hill to the point where it became part desert. That is the explanation as to why Green Hill became Sand Hill, as we all call it. It's because of the Eggman Empire and its deforestation and such. But now the restoration has been performing their regreening effort, in which they are taking their time restoring Green Hill to its beauty as it once were back in Sonic 1 or Sonic Generations as we mostly know it. There's a lot of different moving parts when it comes to the restoration. And yes, while I did mention that the restoration is not much of a military, it still isn't. But they do have teams in which they do stop those specific threats. The Security Corps is one of them, and the Diamond Cutters are another of them. Tangle, Whisper, and Lanolin. And Duo. Yeah, I keep forgetting about Duo. I don't know why. It's like he seems like a chill guy. Yeah, obviously. So it really comes down to the fact that yeah, they may seem like some past groups from other versions of Sonic media, but they really aren't. Like, okay, some similarities can be made. It's just they are quite unique. They are differently unique in their own way. And if people actually stop to actually look into it a little bit, you can see, oh, it's not as what as I thought. It's something else. Yes, it was built off of something from the games. That is something we've seen, but it's still different in its own right. Like, the resistance was there for a reason. The restoration is here for a reason. The resistance is out. The restoration is still around. That is pretty much just it. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm exactly giving the restoration like where credit is due. Like, I'm probably not giving it like the best explanation. I'm sure like people like Ian Flynn and Evan Stanley probably have a better explanation of it than I do, but that is like from another fan's point of view who really likes the restoration, who really likes like how they function in Sonic's world. That is what they're about. Like they they will not attack unless the threat comes to them.
Mhm.
Like obviously that was seen in the Zeddy Hunt arc where the Deadly Six invaded Restoration HQ, and since that time they have strengthened their defense numbers because There were not many there were not many volunteers on guard during that scene, and it was a mess.
Mm.
Also wanted to mention another thing is that the restoration is a volunteer movement. It's been said many times that the restoration is made up of volunteers. People from all around the world can come and go as they please, as like it doesn't really matter. Like people can visit Restoration HQ and they don't have to work. Some people will want to help the efforts and they will volunteer. Some people will want to join the security corps or the diamond cutters or whatever. If you want to help if you want to help fight the Eggman Empire and restore the world, then just do what little you can, and it makes the most of it.
Mm.
That is what I will say on the restoration.
Mm. Yeah,
I'm
because
sorry, I just really like talking about them, so
oh no, it's all good. When you think about it though, like literally it says in the name of the organization that they had specific purposes. Resistance was pretty much just going after Eggman, which makes a lot of sense, because they formed during Sonic Forces. And meanwhile with the restoration, they're kind of like they have a specific purpose, and you have mentioned that they will not attack unless they're being attacked. So that's an interesting like that's an interesting thing that the restoration decide to implement, that like, okay, we won't attack unless the enemy attacks us first. So that's quite interesting to know.
I mean, the whole thing was like it's not up to them. It's just that if Eggman's badniks just show up at their doorstep and was like, well, we gotta go take care of them again. Like it's circumstantial. It's not, oh, we choose to not go after Eggman. It's just that their main priority is helping the rest of the world. Like and we've seen such places around the world that they don't seem affected by either Eggman's takeover from forces or the metal virus pandemic. And to be fair, some places can heal better than others. It just depends on where it is. Um, so what's a good example? Oh, I can compare two places. In issue 63 of IDW Sonic, we see Sonic and Blaze visiting Spagonia. And as far as we're aware, it looks relatively okay. Like nothing has affected it. Nothing, it looks just the same as it was from Unleashed and Generations. You know, everyone is still, living there. It's not deserted or abandoned or destroyed. It's just good old Spagonia. Simple as that. Um, and then we can then turn our attention over to something from issue 67. I believe I said that right. The first story I mentioned was 63, yes, and now I mentioned 67, in which um when Silver and Blaze had come across Sonic, Amy, Surge, and Kit, Blaze had mentioned that while she was touring the world with Silver, Missouri was suffering from poor crops this season. If you know something, um, if you know something, the past seasons that happened in IDW were affected by the metal virus. Something that was talked about was in the trial by fire arc, in which the metal virus grew over Forest Ridge Zone through the winter season, and because water couldn't be absorbed through metal plants, as soon as summertime came around, those plants that were healed from the metal virus weren't watered, so everything was set to go up in flames. It's more than likely the fact that because of either the metal virus or through some other. I think this is more leaning on a theory because I don't think it was mainly like asked about by Ian. But considering how much of the world was, damaged by the metal virus and such, like in terms of natural resources and such, I can imagine that Missouri was suffering through poor crops because of what happened with the metal virus. Reminder, folks, a reminder to everybody. The metal virus infected the entire world. Yes, in the book we do to see the animal people, but the humans had it bad too. Just letting you guys know that. So, and with that, Blaze had mentioned that A shipment was requested by Jewel, and her and Silver were going to take it over there. But, they got stopped at the supply depot and talked to Sonic and Amy and met Sergeant Kit for the first time. But it's clear that they went afterwards to take care of it because, well, after 67, we kind of don't see them since. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mm. Oh, Delius has a question. Should robots be considered an organization slash civilization? That's a very interesting question, Delius.
It depends on if they have a creator or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd like to in terms of like groups, like sure, the Badniks kind of count, but I wouldn't consider them a civilization because, in all honesty, we know the bad like aside from advanced super Badniks and such, like the E series, obviously Omega, just specific robots like Metal Sonic and Gmroll and others. Like the main mass-produced Badniks that exist are well, they are well, I mean, they do express emotion. It's just that I wouldn't consider themselves in their own civilization because, well, the Eggman Empire. I don't think anyone would refer to it as a civilization, but we can refer to it as a group. I think the closest thing we can say into this one would be the Gizoids, which is what Emerald comes from in Sonic Battle. Um, but as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about that one. I'd say yes, but uh, we know that in terms of the main canon, Emerald is the only Gizoid that was ever like, as far as we know in this current uh, understanding of the main Sonic lore, is that Emerald is the only Gizoid that was created by the Great Fourth Civilization, and yeah, I know Sonic Chronicles has the explanation. The Great Fourth Civilization is the Nocturnus clan, and there are more Gizoids, but Sonic Chronicles is no longer. It's not considered canon, and well, I think a lot of people know exactly why. And if you don't, oh, I don't think that's the stream for. I don't think this is the stream for me to talk about that. You
Yeah.
you guys you guys have the internet. You can search it on your own.
um, but
But yeah. Um yeah, it kind of just depends on the robot. Um Maybe the Ancients technology from Sonic Frontiers. I'm gonna have to look a little bit more into this. This one's interesting. Thank you, Dolius, for that one. Yeah,
yeah,
but excuse me. Mm,
yeah,
yeah, no. That yeah, never mind. I've got nothing.
the um But let's talk about I'm very curious, like for those who don't really know about Gun or GUN, like what was their purpose, in terms of like what they do, because we do get to learn a bit about it in Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog, and of course the upcoming animation shorts. I think there's going to be like 3 episodes for that. So I'm very
I think
curious
it's Shadow
about.
Generations, Dark Beginnings.
I'm very curious about Gun. Like, explain like what was their purpose and what they actually do.
So, a lot of hardcore Sonic fans, heck, even like chill, like general like Sonic fans will know what Gun is. But if there are some Sonic fans who don't know, Gun, also known as the Guardian Units of Nations, are a military group that exist on Earth. Uh, they are an international security organization in which they are mainly consisting of humans. Like their whole thing was based around the storyline of Shadow the Hedgehog when he first debuted, and when a lot of his stories were coming to light. They are also the defense force of the United Federation, which I guess to some to some, again, casual Sonic fans, it's basically the USA equivalent to the Sonic equivalent to the USA. Um, and yeah, there and the Guardian Units of Nations commander has a relationship to Shadow in that sense, and I'm sure a lot of people know that as well. It is pretty much just as like I mentioned. They are a security organization. They are international. They are not just based in like one region. Like they can be found anywhere and everywhere. But their main point of uh, their when I'm trying to find the words I want to say, but it's kind of hard for me to say it. Um, yeah, they are mainly just found in the United Federation, just mainly, anyways. But they have been found in other places, such as Monopole from Sonic Rider Zero Gravity. Um, they are, yeah, there are multiple incidents where they get involved and they're trying to, protect Earth from all sorts of threats. You you Sonic fans want like an act like more of an actual military that exists in Sonic. You look at GUN. They go up against either the Eggman Empire or some other threat like the Black Arms during the events of Shadow the Hedgehog. And that's pretty much it. A lot of their story is shown in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow the Hedgehog, and in other like slight appearances, such in like in Sonic Battle, Sonic Rush, just a few things. Sonic 06 especially, yes. And of course when they come back in Sonic Generations. And Gun is infamous. Gun is fairly infamous in the Sonic community. A lot of people know what Gun is, but unfortunately, we have no idea if we are to be seeing them again in the future or through other means with Shadow Generations on the horizon. Because, as it was explained through the Tails Tube episodes, as soon as the events of Sonic Forces came around, Gun was trying to go up against the Eggman Empire, but more than likely they encountered Infinite for the first time, and, well, Gun was in shambles. Eggman had pretty much put them in their place, and they haven't been seen since. Um, and it's really up to Sega exactly like what they're planning with them in the future. We don't know if they are legitimately gone, like GUN just doesn't exist anymore, or they are currently rebuilding their lost numbers from the Eggman Empire takeover. It is completely up to Sega as to what they plan to do with them. We're more than likely we more than likely are going to see them again with the context now that we have of Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, the prologue animated series. We are going to be seeing like them play a role more than likely, considering like how much of Shadow's past is being shown in those episodes. But it doesn't really count for the future since those animated episodes are supposed to take place before the events of Sonic Generations. So, and again, I said that as soon as Forces comes around, that is when they go off on their way. But during the time they were still standing as like a very prominent force in the world, they were simply just doing their job in order to protect the world from any threats, either it be robotic or alien. And like I said, um, sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Like I said, their commander has a history with Shadow the Hedgehog, and that is explained. They have a whole big history involving Eggman's grandfather and his cousin. A lot of history with the space colony Ark. A lot of people would know what I'm talking about, but if they don't, I would suggest looking into Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes as well, and then Shadow the Hedgehog.
Mm.
It just pretty much makes sense.
Yeah, I found it so interesting because I was genuinely curious because I did see that Tails Tube episode where Like it's just from dialogue from Eggman himself, and I'm like, hmm. I was like, I am genuinely curious because so far, to my knowledge in IDW, we haven't even heard about Gun, I think, to my knowledge. Um, but I could be wrong because it's been a while since I've read Sonic IDW, um, but I'm pretty sure you can confirm this for me, Radar. Have they like had mentioned Gun in the IDW comics or no?
Yeah, yeah, no, pretty much just yeah. Gun has not been mentioned whatsoever since then. We have seen their, we have seen places from the United Federation shown in IDW, such as Central City, which is the United Federation's capital, but we have not seen Gun whatsoever. They seem to still have some of their assets still around because during the time of the metal virus, during the Zombot attack on Sunset City in the comics during the metal virus, um, Shadow used a GUN military truck. Yes, I'm talking about the truck from Sonic Adventure 2 from City Escape as a means to take those who were uninfected to Restoration HQ to basically transfer those uninfected and, well, basically stop the infected. Um, but as far as I'm aware, that is the only reference we've had to guns so far in IDW. That one lone truck. We haven't seen anything else. We haven't seen their soldiers. We haven't seen any of their robots. And if there has been sightings of their robots, they were more than likely in pieces and not actually intact. Um, yeah, it is simply just the GUN truck that's made an appearance in IDW, and that's it. Actually, I'm pretty sure that truck was also unmarked. Like a lot of its GUN symbols and like decor and stuff, like the logos of GUN that were once plastered on the truck wasn't present in that story. Um, but it is still very much that same truck, or at least there can be more than one truck. I mean, it's very clear that the one in Sonic Adventure 2 is not the same as the one that has buzz saws and can fly in Sonic Generations.
Ooh.
I really need to know where Gun gets their funding for that kind of stuff. Wow. Yes, the giant truck's back, but oh, they have buzzsaw hands and it can fly now? It is yeah, it's very interesting, but that is pretty much just it for GUN. I would definitely talk more about it if anyone wants to ask. I don't know. We really don't know if they're going to be showing up anytime soon, but I feel like a lot of like those big like revel like uh a lot of those like big story plot lines, like again, it was mentioned in Tails Tube that Gun was put in its place by the Eggman Empire. Like it's been put out of commission for now. Um, if they would want to bring Gun back, it would be more than likely in the games rather than in the comics.
Hmm.
That's all I can really say on the matter. Um, I don't know I don't know any more than like Evan and Ian and Tyson Hess know.
Mm. Yeah, because it makes you do wonder because it's like as we know, Shadow, Rouge, and Omega were part of Gun, but I don't remember ever them recalling if they just left or left Gun or because as we know, they did join the resistance, in Sonic Forces. So it's like, what happened?
As
What did
far as
they
I'm aware, the resistance was, yeah, because the resistance was formed the resistance was formed way before Infinite got his Phantom Ruby, going off of the prequel comics for Forces. Um, it was that Eggman stress tested the Phantom Ruby and its capabilities on Knuckles and Silver on Angel Island. And um, Actually, no, 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 no. My apologies. My apologies. I'm getting that mixed up. It's very clear that the reason why Gunn got taken out was because of Infinite. But yes, around that time, the Resistance was trying to fight against Eggman because it definitely was like after Sonic was defeated by Infinite and was taken into custody by the Eggman Empire. So, yeah, a lot of things happened after Sonic was defeated.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure there was a time where the Resistance and GUN were active in fighting against Eggman. It's just that one was able to come out on top than the other, unfortunately. And just saying now, um, just because GUN is out of the picture doesn't mean like anything else is. Mind you. Hello, people. There are humans still around in Sonic's world right now. We may not be able to see them, but they're still around. They're still around. Just consider them off camera. They aren't seen on camera at the moment.
Mhm. Yeah, I was like, I was kind of like, what's up with Shadow Rouge and Omega? And I don't think in dialogue in IDW, to my knowledge, they've ever mentioned if they ever left Gun or anything. So I
They
was just,
don't. And just for the record, now that I'm realizing what you said to me earlier, the Team Dark didn't exactly they didn't exactly team up with the Resistance. Like it's very like a lot of the times they team up with Sonic and friends, it's very clear that Team Dark is just off on their own, but they are supporting the cause because, you know, uh, mutual enemy and such. Um, but um Yeah, because in episode Shadow, which is the prologue levels to the Sonic Forces main story, um, Rouge got intel. Rouge got intel, and it's very clear that they are on a mission. And to be honest, while it isn't exactly said, I think it can just be safely said that they were in contact with Gunn in regards to this. Um, Maybe it's not the best to go off of speculation for this sort of thing, but I think a lot of people can agree with me when I say it's like, oh, like because around that time of episode Shadow, the Resistance wasn't really they weren't exactly the numbers they were at by the time after the 6 months. So like, yeah, it was very clear that they were with Gunn, unless it is stated that they were with the Resistance at that time. So then it's just like, oh well, I guess that's that.
mm. Yeah, I was just curious about Team Dark's case, because it's like usually it's like they kind of just do their own thing. But at the same time, like you said, they do support the resistance's cause because in a way, it's like their goals are aligned at that. They're like, okay, we have to fight against the Eggman Empire, So it could be it's like when their goals are like aligned, that's when Team Dark kind of like supports, the resistance.
Exactly, that's what I was trying to look for. No, exactly that.
Yeah. Oh, looks like I see another question from Solon. I've got another question. There are so many organizations in the Sonic universe, so it's inevitable some may encounter one another. So, how many organizations have had dealings with one another? Ooh.
That is interesting. That is a really good one. I would definitely want to talk about that one. Um, huh. Like, oh, so when it comes to organizations coming across one another, it's very clear that some will, but some haven't. Like, some are so like distant from each other, like they will acknowledge each other, but they haven't properly met each other. Like, you know, like it's was it the Black Arms, the Babylonians, the Knuckles Clan? They all clearly haven't met each other. They were off in their own sort of, you know, their own sort of thing happening in their respective stories. But, the Black Arms have come in contact with the humans, specifically those on the space colony Ark. Um, hmm. Not a lot can really be said. I think yeah, not a lot can really be said in regards to this, just because some haven't met. It's easier to say how many groups. Oh, excuse me. Uh-oh. I hope those hiccups are not coming back. Um, yeah, it's easier to say that groups have met each other because some of them are more modern, but in terms of organizations which are more ancient, I was about to say ancient, but I realized the ancients are an organization too. Um, who are more older in history. It's clear that they have had their own thing. Um, apologies. Um, I feel like the closest thing we can really have is the ancients and the echidnas, but only because the ancients by that time the echidnas came into the story was when the last remaining ancients that survived the end being transferred into cyberspace during that time from like in the past, their DNA had already corroded them into the chow species. Um, so I guess you can say the ancients and the echidnas. It's specifically through the perspective of the chow.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't really have much evidence to support my question here at the moment, but I guess that's just it.
mm,
Like, again, just little teeny pieces of information, but that's all I can really like cobble together.
gotcha. Oh, okay. I think another question I have, I want to know like I'm not sure if you dabbled into the Babylonians like history and stuff. I'm very curious because I think they kind of talk about it more in the Archie Sonic. I'm not too sure on that because um, I haven't really read Archie Sonic that much, but do they expand on the Babylonians? Because we do get pieces of it in the Sonic Riders games. Because it feels a little bit confusing because in the first Riders game they said, "Oh, we are like descendants of genies," and then 180 they say aliens and zero gravity. So I'm not sure what is up with that. um, so I'm a little bit confused about um I don't know if I should call it a retcon or something, but I'm very curious if they kind of expand on the Babylonians in the Archie Sonic comics.
I will say this now because I know many people are probably going to get the wrong idea when it comes to this sort of thing. Anything from Archie Sonic, unless it is accepted by Sega or put into a new context by, those working on the comics or those working on the games, will not be that in like information, characters, all of that stuff like Archie Sonic material cannot cross over into the main Sonic canon. So any context that the Babylonians were given in Archie does not equal what is in the games and in IDW.
Mm,
So the only things for the Babylonians we can really go off of for for the context of the main for the main Sonic canon are the Riders games, their mentions from Frontiers, and just plainly the existence of Jet, Storm, and Wave. Um, but I will say that Archie did have a very unique way of going about the Babylonians, um, especially since there was an interesting piece of world building which the descendants of the Babylonians in Archie Sonic, um, half of their descendants would end up becoming the Battle Cuckoos, who are from Tails Adventure. If you know, Archie Sonic brought a lot of different a lot of different context from Sonic games, and basically, combine that with the Sonic the Hedgehog TV series, especially Sat AM and Adventures of Sonic. So it's like they tied the Babylonians to what is referred to in the main canon as the Battle Cuckoo Army. In Archie, they are known as the Battle Bird Armada, which they are more known as, but the term in canon is they are the Battle Cuckoos. Um, as I also know, yeah, they also did like a whole adaptation of Tails' adventure in the modern style with uh, Tails also going up with Bunny and Antoine against the Battle Cuckoos. Um, Heck, there was and also some of the stories where Jet, Storm, and Wave came across Speedy, who is the son of the Great Battle Cuckoo, their leader. Um, and also that I also know this as a fun fact to my own sort of thing, is that Bean the Dynamite, Bean was once part of the Battlebird Armada, um, and he knew Jet in that context of Archie Sonic. Um, so it was, yeah, Bean was not only part of the Battle Cuckoos, but can also be considered Babylonian. That doesn't count for Bean now in the canon. Like a lot of those classic characters have their own stories to go through. As much as I hate to say it, everybody remember, classic and modern sometimes they do come together in certain occasions, but most of the time the classic characters are off on their own thing. Uh, I want to see Modern Mighty and Ray too, but it's gonna be a long time. But yeah, um, like there's a lot of interesting ideas that Archie puts out for pre-existing game material, pre-existing game elements. And they combine that with the current context of, like, again, Saturday M, the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the new built-up lore that was that's only original to Archie. But yeah, so but yeah, a lot of that in Archie for the Babylonians does not equal what is in the games and in IDW. Um, and yeah, so anything that comes around for the Babylonians may also have to be from the games as well. It can't be built off from IDW, because like that is a big thing that is like that's like a big like that is like a big story plot in and of itself. Like if Sega wants to go about doing something with the Babylonians again, either outside of a new Riders game or like Sonic Riders 4 if they want to make it, it really has to be from the games. Like there is a lot of things that would have to go through the games first before it gets further explored in IDW.
Mm.
But yeah, that is basically the long and short of it.
Yeah, because I know in Zero Gravity, like apparently Knuckles can read Babylonian language. So I'm very curious, has the Knuckles clan like made contact with the Babylonians? Because I was pretty surprised. I did not know.
Tarzan. All I know. Oh, excuse me. No, I do not think. I think that is simply all. I know that from what I haven't played. I haven't gone through or played Zero Gravity in a while. But as far as I know, um, um, I do know that Knuckles being able to understand Babylonian is simply because of his travels as a treasure hunter. Because that's a whole part of his um yeah, that's a whole part of his lore and stuff for Knuckles. Yeah. Actually, no. You know, um, yeah, Tails can also Tails can also like he's seen a lot in the world, and well, I don't think Tails specifically understands like the inscriptions that were from Gigan rocks. I know that he was aware of what they were first, and then Knuckles was able to read the rest. Yes, he was able. Yes, Knuckles was able to read the Babylonian inscriptions, um, at Gigan rocks, but I don't think. Again, I think that's just all on Knuckles, not on his ancestors.
Mm,
Like, I you know, uh, I think it's pretty much known that the Babylonians arrived on Earth on the astral Babylon, which is what Babylon Garden is. Mind you, Babylon Garden was it's the city is built over the spaceship, which is Astral Babylon. Um, where was I going with this? Right. The Babylonians more than likely arrived on Earth before the Knuckles clan like started their holy lands in what is now known as the Mystic Ruins.
mhm.
Yeah, a
Mm.
lot of this I could be wrong about, but this is why I like to like learn more in the future. It's like I'm taking up information, I'm taking stuff that I don't need anymore out uh, this way and that way and all that. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, just yeah, in regards to the Babylonians, that's all I have to say. And actually, no. Wanted to touch upon one other thing. Yes, yes, as people should know, is that the um, the Babylonians in Sonic are descendants of not only they are, yeah, not only descendants of aliens, but also descendants of like genies. They are like an alien species that are considered treasure hunters and such and thieves um, with like they have like genie aspects to their species. Um, the closest thing we can go off of is the Babylon Guardian, who guards the treasure of Babylon in the first Sonic Riders. Um, I know that Archie gave him a name. I'm pretty sure that Archie gave him like his own name, but all we know is that he is known as the Babylon Guardian. But yeah, Bird Alien Genie. That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that confused a lot of like fans because it's like from a fan's perspective, it's like, is this a retcon or are they technically the same thing? So I'm really glad that you cleared that up because I was confused too because I played the first Sonic Riders game with my friend back in the day and I'm like genies interesting and then when I got the sequel I'm like aliens which one is it? Is it
Yeah,
genie alien? So that's why I was
yeah, they're
confused.
both. That's the fun part. They're both.
That's so interesting because I'm
That's the
pretty
fun
sure
part.
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And while Jet, Storm, and Wave may not look like it, they are still, they are birds. They are birds. Their ancestors, their ancestors. Heck, as far as things go for IDW and like one specific painting that's seen on the Babylon, the uh, as far as things go from IDW Sonic and from one singular painting, more than likely from one singular painting that's seen in both the original Riders and in Zero Gravity from the Babylon Rogues' blimp. Jet's dad is still around. As far as we are aware, Jet's dad is still around, and if we ever get a chance to ever see what he looks like, I feel like we can like tie some other things together in regards to them being I'm just saying this to people who don't like believe like they like the Babylon Rogues look anything like alien genies or something like that. I'm being confident in the fact is like if we ever see Jet's dad show up like in full design and such, like I feel like that would give people more of a hint in regards to their um in regards to their ancestors and such. That's just me being speculative, but I would really like to see more of like these interesting things. Plus, again, uh, it's like you know characters in regards to like Jet the Hawk and Cream the Rabbit and like other characters are the only few characters who are actually known to have parents.
Hmm.
I'm sorry to mention that those certain Sonic comic fans. I maybe we'll go back to those old days. You never know what Sega's all about, but as far as we are aware, uh, anywho, this is not that was not a jab. I'm just like I'm laughing the pain with you all. It would be interesting to see more of the characters having their own parents. Heck, was it freaking Zalman from the Deadly Six mentioned he has a mom, so whoa. Again, passing in dialogue and such.
Very interesting. Yeah. I'm so glad you cleared that up because I was confused. So now at least I got like at least confirmation now that
Yes, no,
like
no, it's totally all right. This is what these streams are for. People
mm,
want to know more about Sonic's world, and that's
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, because I can tell Sega didn't really give us a clear answer when they decided to make them both, like make the Babylonians descendants of genies and aliens. So at least I'm so glad there's some confirmation where I'm like, okay, they're
To be
technically.
fair, there are still a certain amount of fans who believe that because zero gravity is so futuristic compared to, like, even just the extreme gears existing and whatnot, like, Monopole being a futuristic city and stuff. Like, there's people who, at a time, there were people who believed that Riders just simply existed as its own spin off universe rather than being canon because well, it was considered too futuristic even for Sonic standards. But then that kind of statement falls flat when you think about Grand Metropolis from Sonic Heroes, and it's a big part of the Sonic canon. Um, not to go against any certain people. It's just that well, consider this, everybody. Sonic's world has places where they are very vast and unique in their lifestyles. Some are old and ancient, some are more rustic and modern, and some are very shiny and futuristic. Like not there it's not one over the other. Like they can all coexist in the same world. Like once again, we there you know Sonic's world is where um let's see what's a good example I can come up with. Um well yeah, like I said, you have places like Casino Park from Sonic Heroes coexisting with a place like Spagonia from Sonic Unleashed or Apodos. Um yeah, really, it really doesn't matter how futuristic or how old the place may be. They are all in the same world. It just depends on certain contexts. Like there's some like it's very clear that some locations will be found not on Earth but on Little Planet or Lost X or Planet Wisp or elsewhere. It's just a simple thing to grasp. It's just a very simple thing to grasp. Um, well, simple thing to grasp in the current context of like how Sonic's world building is going about. It's like in the past, sure, things weren't as clear. Like as Leah said, like she was confused about the whole thing with the Babylonians because things weren't clear to her in regards to them either being alien or genie, but in regards it's both. And in regards to Sonic's world building, it's both. It's all of the above. Aha.
Mm. Oh, okay. I see a question by Venomous Affection. Um,
Ooh,
I'm
okay.
because they said, "Do you remember the Nocturnus clan from Sonic Chronicles?" I don't know if Radar would answer or what would
No,
it be
yes.
because they said, "What would it be like if they return and meet some of the organizations and civilization in the Sonic universe?" So it kind of sounds like a what if question.
But what if? Okay. Now, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. When well, I was gonna say I was like yeah. It's like I would have been down to like talk about the Nocturnus clan, but not. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to. I get it. It's just a yeah, just a little bit of just a little bit of accident. Apologies. I'm not gonna be able to talk about like a more like what ifs unless I'm being contradictory to myself, then that would just be a problem. But yeah, what if scenarios aren't really what we're talking about. It's just what we're talking about is like what is currently there in Sonic. But I can talk about the Nocturnus clan, and as far as I'm aware, they have had interaction. Yes, they have had interactions before. Like, yeah, yes, Sonic Chronicles isn't canon, but that doesn't mean I'm like off the table to talking about it. I just know just a little bit of it, not too much, just a little bit of it. So in the context of Sonic Chronicles, I guess we can let's just call it the Chronicles timeline, because again, it's not canon anymore, in this sense, and yeah. So the Nocturnus clan, what is described as the fourth great civilization from Sonic Battle, which created the Gizoids and which created Emerald. Um, the Nocturnus clan were a rival Echidna clan to the Knuckles clan, way back when, and the Chronicles kind of had a little bit of a um, yeah, Chronicles had a little bit of a I guess yeah, this is why I'm calling it the Chronicles timeline because the Knuckles clan existed 3,000 years ago before the proper events of Sonic the Hedgehog, whereas in Chronicles it was stated to be that they were around 4,000 years ago, alongside the Nocturnus clan. Um, and yeah, so the Knuckles clan was under you know under rule of Pachacamac, while the Nocturnus clan was under the rule of oh gosh I hope I'm saying his name Imperator Ix is what he was referred as, um, and yeah, again a rivalry between them, and yeah. Uh, I'm really trying to remember how things went. Yeah, they were trying to expand their borders, but they began pushing against the Knuckles clan's borders off in the Mystic Ruins, and such. And that was when they began to, that was when they fought. Yeah, war for land is what happened. Um, the Knuckles clan was as we know it. It was a lot more old based, whereas the Nocturnus clan were more futuristically um the no, that's not the right word. More technologically advanced as a civilization. Like they're to basically like highlight the answer to the question here is that the Nocturnus clan interacted a lot with the Knuckles clan. That was their main interactions with other organizations, civilizations. My bad. Apologies. I've been talking for a long time. um, but yeah, the Nocturnus clan. Um, yeah, their war had only ended as soon as everything happened with Perfect Chaos and everything that happened in Sonic Adventure. Um, and following the fall of the Knuckles clan, they remained supreme, and it was following that time that they created Emerald. um, however um, however, following Emerald's creation, it was stated that Emerald had destroyed the Nocturnus clan. In Sonic Battle, it's been described in Gerald Robotnik's notes. If you guys don't know, Gerald Robotnik is Eggman's grandfather. That Emerald was created by the Great Fourth Civilization, and because of how powerful it got because of how powerful it was as a fighting robot, it ended up destroying the very civilization it was created by. Um, and in the context of Chronicles, that the great fourth civilization was the Nocturnus clan, and well, those that were left behind on Earth were destroyed by Emerald. A great, I'd say a great sum of the Nocturnus clan ended up getting imprisoned by something that was referred to as the Argus event, which the Nocturnus clan were then sent to the Twilight Cage, a whole different dimension um, in Sonic's universe, in the multiverse. Um, and the Twilight Cage kept the Nocturnus clan up until the events of Chronicles. Um, uh, Again, by what was referred to as a character called Argus. Not much is really known about it. It's just that it was a very like a yeah, no, just very hard to explain it, to be honest. Um, Again, not much is known, and not much can be built from not much can be built from the Nocturnus clan as of right now, because again, Chronicles is not canon. They were planning for Chronicles 2, but well, everything that happened with the game and BioWare and Sega, it it fell through. So yeah, as much as it would be interesting as to see like if they were ever to return as like a concept, I feel like Sega would have to like rework it a bit if they would ever want to bring something like that back. There are some things on Sonic's World that reuse names. Uh, it just matters in the context, but again, considering how things went with that, it's hard to say. Uh, that's just my own limited knowledge in regards to the Nocturnus clan. And I know that the Nocturnus clan was given a quite a bit of context question mark in Archie Sonic when they appeared there, but that would take way too long, and I don't think it would be great to talk about that at the moment. So let's move on, shall we?
Yeah, I don't see any new questions. So my next question is about the ancients and Sonic Frontiers, because I know people were a little bit confused because we actually do like people are like, are they related to chaos? So yeah, I know it's very confusing because like you kind of get like, some egg egg memos from Eggman, where he kind of like starts theorizing about the ancients. So I want to know of your knowledge of the ancients from Sonic Frontiers.
All right. So, from the most recent of uh big stories in Sonic's world, Sonic Frontiers brought the ancients into the context of the main canon. The ancients as a group have been mentioned before in the past in Sonic Boom, where it was very clearly that they were considered to be something else in Sonic Boom, because Lyric, the main big bad of Rise of Lyric in Sonic Boom, was considered to be one of those ancients, like the last remaining. But here in the main here in the main Sonic the Hedgehog canon, the ancients were simply just they were simply of that of a seemingly peaceful civilization of ancient aliens, um, and they came across the end, which was this all powerful being and entity that was destroying worlds for its own hunger, and what is known is that the ancients' home planet was once the original home of the Chaos Emeralds. It is to be known that the Chaos Emeralds came from the ancients' home planet. Not known if if they were created from the ancients, but rather they just came from their home world. The Chaos Emeralds are they are of alien descendant, history. Yeah, alien descendant history is what I meant to say. They, the Chaos Emeralds are not aliens themselves. Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy. Um, we joke around here, folks. Um, but yeah, so the ancients, as we know, they had their own tribes, in which like those that lived on their home planet were uh, oh my goodness. Apologies. They were separated by their own factions. Some some had big bodies and were probably the strongest. Some grew tails. Some walked on four legs. Some grew wings. And some were the most intelligent of their species. However, unfortunately, follow, following the end coming across their homeworld, the only faction that made it out alive from the end destroying their homeworld was the intelligent faction of the ancients. And it wasn't going to stop there. Yes, the ancients did flee their homeworld, and they ended up getting drawn to Earth because the Chaos Emeralds were being drawn by the Master Emerald, which was found on the Starfall Islands, which is where they made their new home, uh, tens of thousands of years ago. And but unfortunately, the end had been able to find them on Earth. So it was through that the ancients created the Titans, Giganto, Wyvern, Knight, and Supreme in order to fight this thing. They wanted to try and, give time to the rest of their species to thrive again. So that's when the Chaos Emeralds created. Yeah, they created the Titans, and uh, four specific four specific ancients piloted those Titans. Um, it was to basically try to um, they were trying to stop it, but their last attempt at trying to stop it was to seal the end away in what is in cyberspace, which is what the cyberspace is something that the ancients created, an information highway, to base a whole digital world that basically gathers information from around the world, and the Starfall Islands acts as its CPU, basically, which pretty much, activates, the portals that lead into cyberspace that they have created as well. So they would try to seal the end into one of the Titans and then find a way to seal it away into cyberspace. Unfortunately, those ancients, those ancients, they were uh, my bad. A lot of talking kind of does a bit to your voice, doesn't it? Um, Specifically, they were known as Snake, Crane, Dragon, and Tiger, and they had all fallen in sacrifice to save the rest of their species. Um, and yeah, there was also a lot of fighting between the End and the Ancients, especially that on Chaos Island and Ares Island, in which they had built defenses and weaponry in order to fight it, but it proved no good. And so a certain last group of the ancients that were on the Starfall Islands during the confrontation between the End and the Titans, they were required to basically take the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald off of the Starfall Islands and regroup somewhere else. And it is more than likely the fact that through this we get the understanding that um, those ancients would then come across what would later be known as the Mystical Ruins, or before then, like years ago, would also be known as the Holy Land of the Knuckles Clan specifically, and the ancients would set up an altar for all of the emeralds, for the Chaos and Master Emeralds. However, due to chaos energy exposure from the Master Emerald, as time goes on, as thousands of years go by, as eons passed, the ancients' DNA starts to corrode, and they end up becoming an entirely new species, which, yeah, that new species ends up being the Chow. And it is through that multiple new Chow are, yeah, they are, born into the context of Sonic, and yeah, going off of what was said about them, because I know that Chaos was mentioned. So, what is known about Chaos is that Chaos was originally a Chow, originally a Chaos Chow specifically. Uh, like a very specific looking breed of Chow, and because of that Chow coming across to too much Chaos energy exposure from the Master Emerald, it ends up mutating into what Chaos looks like now. And with the context of Sonic Frontiers, we can deduct the fact that because the ancients turned into because the ancients evolved into Chow as years go by, and then once that one specific Chow comes across more chaos radiation, more chaos energy exposure. I don't know why I said radiation. I guess I just had that sort of like vibe. Chaos evolved backwards, essentially. Chaos took a form that looked like his ancestors. That is the reason why Chaos looks like, yes, Eggman does like have like notes and like data that he has Sage run in order to make the comparison, is that the ancients are Chaos's ancestors, and Chaos being exposed to the Master Emerald reverts from a Chow back into it's more of a hybrid, I guess. Like it's like Chaos is still considered to be a mutant Chow, but his body, its form looks a lot like its ancestors. That is where the correlation comes from. That is why they are related.
Mm, yeah. I always found it very interesting because I remember the first reveal when people started mentioning, they're like, "Wait, are they related to Chaos?" Because literally the same, like they have a watery looking, and they look very, very, very similar to Chaos. And I love how people pick that up very immediately, and it's like that's so interesting. Very interesting for sure. Um, Debbie the Dragon, that question does not correlate with what we are discussing for the live stream. So, as I have put in the chat, please keep the questions about the different organizations and civilizations in the Sonic franchise. Radar will not answer any what if questions. So, keep that in mind.
What if questions and kind of questions that are unrelated. But just to be civil, because I'm not going to turn it away. It's a very simple question. Yes. Anyways, moving on.
um,
See, my dearest friend Angie down there, with a question. Oh,
Yeah, I'm kind of just letting them know. Please keep that in mind, everyone. This is about the different organizations, and civilizations.
and also groups in Sonic, which I was going to say. There was one in particular that kind of got deleted, and I don't know why. I was going to answer it anyways because it is related in a sense. Because again, we are talking about, yeah, we are talking about groups that exist in Sonic and stuff. Like, and we can always, the teams, of course. Team Sonic, Team Rose, Team Dark, Team Chaotix. All of them can be talked about as well. And I just saw from it, I was able to read it in time. I was able to read in time. No need to worry. Was going to answer from Angie if Team Hooligan was ever going to come back together. So, context for some people: Team Hooligan is the consisting team of Fang, Bean, and Bark. Fang the Hunter, Bean the Dynamite, and Bark the Polar Bear. In Archie Sonic, Ian Flynn had the three team up, mainly because, not only because of the fact that, well, their origins kind of stem, Fang's origins stem from Triple Trouble, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, but basically him being around Bean and Bark stems from Sonic the Fighters, but also because in during the development of Sonic Heroes, one of the teams that were meant to be used were was going to be Fang, Bean, and Bark. I think Ian kind of debunked that being the reason why he put them together in Archie, but he it still ended up happening, in which they were referred to as the Hooligans or Team Hooligan, and that would not only be a thing in the pre-reboot series of Archie Sonic, but also in the reboot series, and from that also point on in Classic Sonic for in IDW. They were able to be brought back as Fang's gang specifically. Yes, they aren't mainly able to use the name Hooligan because I think it mainly. Well, no. Hooligans is mentioned as a name for them in the Encyclopedia, but in terms of what they are known as now in the Sonic canon, they are just simply known as Fang's gang. Fang is taking all the credit here, and um, hmm, hmm. Double cough. Apologies. Yeah, and yeah, in mainly in classic Sonic material, so in IDW and the games, yeah, Fang did kind of get Bean and Bark together on a team, and they've been doing all sorts of stuff together, mainly in IDW, in Sonic the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary celebration, and in Amy's 30th anniversary special. However, following this, we then came across the miniseries Fang the Hunter for IDW Sonic, which would lead up to the events of the recent classic Sonic game, Sonic Superstars. And spoiler, not much of a spoiler alert because the comic has been out for a while now, but spoilers if you haven't read it much yet. After a scuffle, for a search for what was rumored to be the eighth Chaos Emerald, and after a lot of heated moments between the three, Bean and Bark ended up disbanding from the team and went off on their own. Bean and Bark are best friends, and they only tagged along for Fang purely for the money and for, well, Bean wanted into it because of the whole, because, being as wacky as he is, and Bark stuck around because he was keeping an eye on his buddy. But yeah, the two ended up leaving Fang to his devices, and we haven't really seen them since. And they disbanded after that. However, following that, Fang got word from Eggman about the whole thing that happened in the miniseries. They told each other what was what, and Fang was acquired by Eggman for a new job, in which they were to be exploring the mysterious Norp Star Islands, which would then lead up into the events of Sonic Superstars. And we get an understanding as to why Fang was not only involved with those events, but also why he was without Bark and Bean. So, the main thing about Angie's question is if they plan to reunite. I don't know about that one. All we really know in this current, so as it's known, the current IDW classic Sonic comics take place after the events of Sonic Mania, like overall. So like after Mania, after Classic Sonic goes through Forces events, after Mania Adventures, but before the events of Sonic Superstars. And we do, and yeah, at the most recent, as of the most recent announcement, we are getting a 30th anniversary comic for Knuckles, but we don't know exactly who's going to be involved or what's going to happen. And the last classic Sonic comics to have come out were of Fang the Hunter's miniseries, which left off towards the events of Superstars. So chronologically, the last time we have seen Bark and Bean was in the miniseries, and the last time we saw Fang was in Superstars. That is all we know. If they were to come back, yeah, again, I don't know. maybe the Knuckles story could have some additional context as to that, or it could be or it can be an entirely original story all to itself without any mention of Fang or Bean or Bark. Um, I know that Sonic and friends have talked about them. I think it's very clear that they don't really know that they disbanded the way they did. I mean, it's only really between Fang, Bean, and Bark. But I know that they still. I know that Sonic and his friends still refer to them as like a group, like oh Fang's gang, oh Bean and Bark and such. But yeah, anything in regards to them ever coming back together is really all up to Sega. A lot of the decisions made towards these organizations, these teams, these civilizations, these groups, it is all through Sega. If Bean and Bark end up going back with Fang in the future, we're just gonna have to wait and see how that goes. It entirely depends on, if the next classic Sonic stories will feature them in a way, or if Fang is just going to be by himself from now on. If it's just going to be Fang and his Marvelous Queen. Which, for context, the Marvelous Queen is his hover bike. So, yeah, pretty much it.
Mm, okay.
Hmm.
Looks like I see a question from Debbie the Dragon. Do you think the Freedom Fighters are coming back? I know lots of fans have been asking about this question.
Hmm. And this is a question I was actually expecting to hear, but I didn't really. So I didn't really think we'd get this like a little bit late into the live stream, but I'm happy that it was asked anyways. So the Freedom Fighters, as people all know, the Freedom Fighters came from the Sat AM TV show, and it was basically in the context of uh, he was not known as Eggman in the US. He was known simply as Dr. Ivo Robotnik. And Robotnik had pretty much just taken over the world. He'd pretty much taken over the world, and it was in the context of where hope was lost, and um, you know nature was being traded for technology. And in this context, Sonic, when he was simply just a kid, um, he and a bunch of other animal friends would go up against Robotnik to stop him once and for all, to free the world and return it back to its beautifulness, uh, to once were how things used to be. And that consisted of him and Tails, but also consisted of entirely original characters for that TV show, in the form of a chipmunk, Sally Acorn, a walrus, Rotor, um, Bunny, uh, Bunny Rabbit, and Antoine. In Archie, he was given the designation of a coyote, but we don't really know what kind of animal he was meant to be in Sat AM, as far as I know, anyways. So we'll just stick with that. And the Freedom Fighters were like some of the biggest like team-based characters in the Sonic mythology, especially when the Archie Sonic comics was based off of Sat AM, and also the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and basically ran that comic ran for a total of like more than 24 years, and the Freedom Fighters were always there with Sonic through all of those stories. Sally, Rotor, Bunny, Antoine, and even and as we all know, and even Sally's handheld computer, Nicole. They were always there at the forefront of their one TV show, and then fully for the comic book at the time. And since the cancellation of Archie Sonic, they haven't really been around since. Sega wanted to basically just start anew with IDW Sonic and make it more based off of the games. And they would and while it is sad to say, they'd move on from what was established from Archie Sonic. Whole new comic, whole new road. And with that said, will the Freedom Fighters ever come back? It's hard to say because Sega does own the Freedom Fighters as, the characters. They do own, Sally, Rotor, Bunny, Antoine. They are still in possession of Sega. Like Sad AM is still available through Wild Brain, who animated Sonic Prime, and like their whole the whole show library, and the characters have even have cameos. Like Sonic Spinball is a game that was widely referred to as like a Sad AM game because of the fact that it made like it's like Sonic used his American design that's used in like the box arts. The Freedom Fighters were cameos, but now Sonic Spinball is considered canon. So they're, but I wouldn't say their cameos mean much of anything. That's what's said. Like the cameos of the Freedom Fighters aren't meant to be actually taken as them being canon or so. They're simple Easter eggs that they exist in the look at that, they exist in the games and stuff. That's pretty fun. That's pretty much all there is to it with them. And then they've also had cameos in the Sonic Forces prequel comics. Shout out to Adam Bryce Thomas, who is the artist for those comics. But that is simply, yeah, according to Ian and Flynn, that is simply just, again, just Easter eggs. They're just there to be there. They're not meant to mean anything. Just, it's just pictures of Sally and Bunny. But that doesn't mean that Sega does not hear about the Freedom Fighters about fans of the Freedom Fighters wanting them to return. Heck, people on the inside of Sega, and even someone like Ian Flynn wants them to return, and Ian has been trying his hardest to like get them back in any way possible, trying to use Sonic Spinball as an example, and then again, and it's not just Ian Flynn. There are many people who are advocating for a lot of the American content to come up and be revitalized. Probably not in the way that Archie did it, but probably in a new way. And that's something that Ian has talked about as well, is that if the Freedom Fighters, this is something I wanted to talk about as well, that not a lot of people know. Ian has commented that if the Freedom Fighters were ever to return at Sega's approval, they would not be allowed to be based off of their Archie counterparts. That those iterations of the characters are pretty much retired and they were not coming back. But rather, new versions of the characters would have to be built off of their Sad AM counterparts, the original versions of the characters, because Sad AM predates the Archie comics. So, the personalities of Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, and Sally would have to come from Sad AM, as far as we know. And I know that there was a lot of talk when it came to Nicole as well, because Nicole having, a hollow animal form was something that was mainly Archie. And it's kind of unknown as to what could possibly happen with that. Who knows? That's really what this all is. Who knows? We don't know how long it's going to be until the Freedom Fighters are ever going to come back. They could be stuck as cameos. They could simply just be, in reference and such, or they can straight up come back in a new context. Either Sega puts them in the games, which would be the most insane and craziest thing that they do, or they can include them in they can include a new version of them, like a Sega Sonic version of them in the comics in IDW, which would be the more, reasonable, more down to earth decision, the more plausible one to happen. The Freedom Fighters are certainly interesting. They are a topic that are talked about a lot in the Sonic community. They have had fans for years. They continue to have fans for years. And I'm sure Sega is quite aware of how they are often brought up in conversation, how they are brought up as a means to like want to come back. How the freedom fighters are brought up when people want them back. People want it's a lot. It is certainly a lot. And I myself would actually want to see them back as well, just because I'd like to see them in these new contexts for um Sega Sonic. It really depends. I really don't know. I'm just as unaware as most fans are. So whatever happens, really, it's all up to Sega at the end of the day.
Hmm.
I know I probably went a lot. Yeah, I probably went a long time about that, but that is, pretty much how it is at the moment.
Hmm. Oh, I see another question from Venomous Affection. Oh, that one is opening a can of worms. They're asking about Shade the Echidna. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's gonna be going to opening a can of worms.
I,
Um,
I'll only say this just because of the topic. Shade is a character that is part of the Nocturnus clan and is involved in Sonic Chronicles, but that is all I'll really get into it so far. That like just a quick mention really, and I know someone also mentioned it as well. I guess we can also talk about it since it was brought into passing. Someone had mentioned in the chat of Trip the Sun Gazer from Sonic Superstars, who is the most recent addition to the classic Sonic cast. And something to know about Trip is that she is the descendant of a group that a civilization that once inhabited the North Star Islands, and well, just like Knuckles being the guardian of Angel Island, she is the guardian of the North Star Islands, despite her cute clumsiness. Um, Trip, um, Trip's armor that she wears during a big portion of Superstars and in the promotional material, so like the Fang's Big Break comic and the Trio of Trouble animation, it has been said that her armor is ceremonial because that is what the civilization that is what the civilization before her wore during their time on the North Star Islands. It's and it's kind of also an additional reason why she keeps her armor around after she reveals who she is, like what she looks like at the closer towards the end of the game. Like she keeps her helmet with her. It's more of a sentimental thing aside from her being shy and wanting to hide her face sometimes. Um, but yeah, and it's also through this is that Trip, like we don't know too much about Superstars' lore because of the way they tried to go about it being like, oh, Sonic 3 and Knuckles style have, you know, little like they tried to go about it in a way that was like 3 and Knuckles, but it didn't stand up on its own, so it didn't help. So, but yeah, like Trip, both in character and her backstory is like tied to her ancestor. I'm pretty sure it's her ancestors, or it's just like a civilization that she has relations to, because while I'm certain that she isn't the last of the Sun Gazer lizards, I'm fairly certain that she is the last of the civilization on the North Star Islands. Um, I do hope that we can get more in the future. Actually, as far as I'm aware, for how things are going with that Knuckles 30th anniversary special I mentioned for IDW, I have a theory that Superstars, as of now, isn't the only time we're going to be seeing Trip pop up. That's just a theory, just a theory. Just thinking about it and going off of like what was said about the comic, but yeah.
mm. Yeah, that's so yeah, yeah, Trip was definitely an interesting character for sure. Um,
Interesting addition, and a very cute character who got added into, you know, applaud to the fact that Trip was designed by Sonic's original character designer Naoto Oshima. So it's all pretty cool. It's all really cool and such.
Mhm. Oh, I see a question from Jaden Tavira. They said, "What IDW villain would you like to see in the games?" Would you like to answer that, Radar?
When Well, I will answer it. I will answer the question, but it's not exactly in relation, but I'll answer it just in case to pad out the time just a little bit. Um, Surgeon Kit, getting it out of the way. I'd really want to see Surgeon Kit in the games. That's yeah, and that's all I will say. That's pretty much just it.
Mm. Nice. Um, but I'm very curious. Let's talk about the Black Arms, their history, because of course, gotta do some tribute for Sonic X Shadow Generation. So, what's their lore for the Black Arms?
Uh, we obviously have to talk. I feel like if we are to close out with any topics of the civilizations, it have to be something that is, currently going on in the space of the Sonic series. So, the Black Arms, an alien race led by Black Doom, their creator, their father. Black Doom is basically the mother wisp to the Black Arms, is what is known. Like Black Doom, he is the creator of his species and such. And Black Doom was, obviously involved with the creation of Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow is not just a hedgehog, he's also part Black Arms. He's also part alien because Black Doom provided some of his blood to make sure that Shadow could exist during Gerald's time on the Ark. Um, yeah, the Black Arms is now assumed to be endangered, especially now with the events of Shadow, but that could change depending on how Shadow Generations goes about. The Black Arms, they used to live on, well, they used to live in what was known as the Black Comet, which was something that was often celebrated by inhabitants of Earth. Every 50 years, the Black Comet would come by through Earth and pass by. However, it would be known that the inhabitants of the comet, the Black Arms, would eventually invade Earth because Black Doom would want to harvest the life sources of Earth to fuel to fuel his species. They are the Black Arms are a hive mind, and um, you know, to continue to expand their numbers, to continue their to continue their existence. I know there's another word for it, but it's just kind of blanking for me. To basically keep doing whatever it is that they're doing, you know, they seemed hell bent on feeding off of the humans, especially. That was the whole point of Shadow the Hedgehog, in which they invaded in order to feast upon the humans. And yeah, and also to know about also to know about um, also to mainly know about the Black Arms is that they are able to use the Chaos Emeralds in their own way. Heck, a lot of Shadow's powers, his Chaos powers, utilizing the Chaos Emeralds or his own innate abilities, it comes from his DNA. It comes from the Black Arms DNA. Um, um, So yeah, that's something I can also like talk about is like, some powers like Chaos Control, Chaos Blast, Chaos Snap, Chaos Spear is like, yeah, it seems that a lot of it is very like seems to be very while it is tied to the powers of the Chaos Emeralds, for Shadow specifically, it seems to be tied with his DNA and such, as far as I'm aware, anyways. Because like Black Doom was able to use the Chaos Emeralds himself. He was able to teleport the Black Comet down to Earth so it can begin to feast upon the planet, and he would be able to transform into Devil Doom. Um, but but again, like I said, um, the Black Arms would then become endangered after Super Shadow was able to defeat Devil Doom. However, we all thought that that was like the end of them, and the only thing that remained was Shadow and Doom's eye, Black Doom's third eye, that existed. You know, the starfish that people like to comment on. However, with the context going forward for Shadow Generations, it's looking like it's going to be a very interesting thing with Black Doom returning from supposed death.
Mhm.
And him taking advantage of a being like the Time Eater is not going to be pretty, especially for it, you know, erasing time and space. Um, but yeah, the Black Arms are very central to Shadow, just as much as Gerald and Maria Robotnik are. Um, and I have a feeling that Dark Beginnings may perhaps show something of that. If not, then we're definitely going to get a lot of context through Shadow Generations. I know a lot of people are already theorizing like what exactly what exactly like the Shadow the Hedgehog's Doom powers as we see him obtain in Shadow Generations in the latest trailers. Like what exactly Doom's trying to do with that to Shadow? Like what exactly what how is Doom going to use the Time Eater to his benefit to harvest Earth once again for the Black Arms? Um, a lot of it is looking to be very interesting, and October can't come any faster.
Oh. Oh, okay. Looks like I see one more question, and this will be the last question. Um, and another question from Solon. What about the enterprises in the Sonic universe, like Clean Sweep Inc. or Honey Clothing?
Mm-mm. This one's also my favorite because you know step aside from the restoration as well, I also do like the concept of clean sweep currently in IDW Sonic. Um, I will do a quick comment though. Honey clothing, I really wish that it would exist because it was originally from Archie Sonic, but I mean, in the canon, it is pretty much the whole thing. We know that Honey is a fashion designer still, and she still like fights to promote her brands, but we don't know if it's specifically Honey clothing or if it's something else. I feel like that would be on the topic of Sega and Ian or Evan, depending on how things go to bring Honey back. I know that there is a lot of ish. There seems to be a few issues to bringing Honey back into the context of Sonic. And there's a reason why her appearances have only been classic Sonic only. Or heck, just merely cameos at best. But she's appeared. She's at least appeared and she's there. Just not as we know her in modern Sonic from Archie. So again, sorry to say that. Honey is also another one of those classic characters that we in modern for a long time. That depends on Sega. But I can't talk about Clean Sweep. For people who don't know, Clean Sleep Incorporated is a recent enterprise and organization from the IDW Sonic comics, which is under the leadership of Clutch the Opossum, a character that debuted under Evan Stanley's run for IDW Sonic. Um, Clean Sleep Inc. is a very interesting thing. It is essentially rivaling the Restoration, but they are business partners. See, Clutch is all about do Clutch has been all about shady deals and trying to hoard Eggman's technology, whether it be badniks or weapons or just anything overall that has Eggman's name on it. He's very invested with the technology and the money that could be profited off of it. And so throughout the many appearances of Clutch, we have seen him try to do you know, back alley esque deals. Like, again, in his many appearances. So in his penthouse suite in during the Chow Races and Badnik Races arc, because of his retirement in White Park, or the abandoned warehouse in the Central Shipping Yard, where he worked with Rough and Tumble in order to conduct his deals with people who want the egg tech that he's hoarded. However, due to an encounter with the Chaotix, Clutch had practically lost everything. And while he did escape off of the Chaotix's trail, that doesn't mean that he was done. So while Rough and Tumble were off doing their own thing, they were still in contact with Clutch. Clutch, after this, he decided to go off and do something new. Something that it would benefit him a lot and would probably put him over the top like he once was back in his early days. Mind you, Clutch is older than Eggman. So during the time in between, issue 49 and issue 50. No, yes, no, yes. In between issue 49 and issue 61, Clutch had managed to acquire some of Eggman's old chemical plant facilities from the Avenzo forces. And he had been able to take them over and acquire all sorts of new assets and even is his own organization of people that work for him. And through Clutch being able to, yeah, if you don't know, the chemical plant from Forces, those levels are not the same location as the ones from Sonic 2 or Sonic Generations. They are completely different chemical plants. And the multiple chemical plants spread across the frigid north, which is what that area is called, now belong to Clutch and under Clean Sweep Inc. Clean Sweep Inc. is a cleanup organization. They are the world's top waste management pros, and they have now begun partnering with the Restoration in order to provide their services in order to expand the Restoration's efforts worldwide. Because the Restoration can only go so far because of how much of a volunteer movement it is. And with the help of Clean Sweep, they can go even farther than what they imagined. And so that's what they have that is what is happening during the Phantom Riders arc, the current arc for IDW Sonic, where they are hosting the Clean Sweepstakes as a charity event for the Restoration and for Clean Sweep Inc. to help the Restoration. They Clean Sweep do exactly what the Restoration does in a more specific sort of way, in which they clean up all of the nasty Eggman robotics, and they just they help the people clean up their towns. They don't, as far as I'm aware, they don't help repair the towns. They just clean up the waste that's left behind by Eggman's conquests. Thing is, that's just what it looks like in public. Behind the scenes, Clean Sweep Inc. is Clutch's new way of hoarding egg tech. And it is also what Clutch is trying to use in order to usurp the Restoration. He is trying to perform a quote-unquote hostile takeover in order to make sure that Clean Sweep stays on top and the Restoration stays out of business. Because, as Clutch mentioned, the Restoration does what Clean Sweep does for free, and that's bad to his business. Again, Clutch is all about deals and the profits that come from Eggman's tech. He's even mentioned it before that he sells Eggman's own tech back to him. Thing is, not a lot of people know who is actually in charge of Clean Sweep. They don't know it's Clutch the Opossum. Many of the Sonic characters know who he is. Not a lot, but many do. But So that is all going to be brought up in the next few stories that are coming up for IDW Sonic. I can say this now is that issue 72, which is known as Phantom Riders Part 4, it's coming out next week. So we're going to be looking at that story advance even further. And it's going to be very interesting. I really like Clean Sweep and its concept. Like I didn't think I'd like it before, but like I do. I really do. It's a really fun like, antagonistic force that exists. And it being a foil to the restoration and also working together with them to bring it down is I don't know, it's interesting to me. Not a lot of people are a fan of the storyline because the restoration has been a central point of IDW Sonic for a while, a long while right now. But I can see the good in the faults. And I really do like how Clean Sleep is going up. I really do like what Clean Sleep is up to, and I can't wait to see how it goes in the future. Um, I don't want to spoil anything else. If you want to know more about what Clean Sweep is up to and what's happening with the restoration in the current arc, go read it. Definitely go read it. Currently issues this. I'm sorry for the shameless plug, but I do really want to say that this arc is good. This arc is really good. Issues 69, 70, and 71 are all out right now, and 72 next week. It's a fun story.
Nice.
And also, if you're a fan of Sonic Riders and the Extreme Gears, then also read it for that reasoning as well. Really good stuff.
Hmm. Very interesting stuff, yeah. Um, Unfortunately, I will have to end this live stream. I want to thank you, Radar. I know it's been like more than a few months since we last did a Sonic Lore with Radar episode.
This is
Um,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, this is fun. This is really fun. I really like talking about all the different groups of Sonic, and I hope that goes. I hope it goes well in the future. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bit tired, just a little bit tired, and I still have to stay up because of some upcoming news as well for Sonic. But
Mm.
it's always nice to get to talk with Leah more about Sonic, and it's always nice to answer your guys' questions. Some of it, just letting you guys know, just as a last thing I want to say, not everything is the same today. Not everything is the same as it is today as it is tomorrow. Things can change as easily as that. Like the answers I give you now could like not matter tomorrow. So like be just just wonder about that. It's not you know not anything serious. It's just that that's just how it goes. Things change, different
Yeah.
contexts change, the lore changes. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Um, I did mention earlier, I actually have a special announcement I want to surprise you guys. I have recently hit 3K subscribers on my YouTube channel, so I hit my goal for this year, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in and supporting my YouTube channel for all my live streams with Sonic Lore with Radar, Got a Spotlight with Leah Serenity Rose, the Lucky Charm podcast, and the Tangle and Blaze live streams. Um, to celebrate, I actually have my next announcement for the next Got a Spotlight with Leah Serenity Rose. And I'm going to show you all right now. So let me go bring it up. All right. So, hopefully, that's right. I'm going to be doing the 20th episode of Goddess Spotlight with Leah Serenity Rose with the amazing Devin Mack. um,
Guys, it's Sonic.
Yeah, I actually I'm going to be doing a Q&A with him on August 28th, 2024 at 4 p.m. PT, 7 p.m. ET here on my YouTube channel. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Devin Mack at San Diego Comic Con. and he told me he was interested in doing a Q&A. So to celebrate my 3K subscribers, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with the Devin Max. So um, be sure you all come tune in. And if you have any questions for him about whether if it's about Sonic Prime or his other voice roles, please come tune in, everyone. Um, and of course, I have more upcoming Goddess Spotlight with Leah Serenity Rose episodes coming up soon as well after Devon Max. So please be sure that you, and of course, going to be planning the next Lucky Charm podcast. And do not worry, I'm still trying to get the reschedule for the Tangle and Blaze. So stay tuned for all that. So hopefully I see you all for the Q&A with Devin Mack on August 28th. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And if be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because I do have a new goal is reaching 4K subscribers. So let's try to get to 4K now. This is my gift for you guys doing a Q&A with Devin Max. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's always such a great pleasure to listen to Radar and I always learn something new about this. So every about the Sonic franchise. So hope to see you all soon for Q&A with Devin Max. So may you all have a wonderful night and thank you for tuning in. Bye everyone.
See you around, folks, and subscribe to Leah.